Welcome to Dave Festival, Cristian Vogel.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Dave.
I would like to ask you some questions, but I have to read them because I just received them, if this is okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. You represent expertise from both fields, electronic dance music and academic progressiveness. What are the most important experiences or ways, steps, pieces in your long career in this area?
In music, well, most importantly, I think, was probably learning how to listen. You know, like listen through styles and through technology and trying to find what it is that I need to pursue in terms of sound. You know, you got to do a lot of listening as well as making and doing. That's a quick, short answer.
Okay, next one. What motivates you to create new technologies and sounds?
Again, there's a sort of looking for something that I don't know exactly what it is, and sometimes the process of looking for something that you don't know what it is, you know, it feels like being lost. And if you've ever been lost, then you know that once you work through the stress and panic and anxiety of not knowing where you are, then after a while you can just start to look at things like trees or wherever it happens to be that you're lost. If you're lost in the forest, it would be trees, I guess, or mushrooms, or maybe animals. So that sort of thing motivates me, trying to keep creating and create as much as possible.
What is the most interesting movement in electronic music for you?
Currently, contemporary music. I think in electronic music, it's the movement that's happening that brings instrument designers closer to people that will create with those instruments. Or specifically, this is embodied in the Eurorack modular scene, and I think that's the most interesting and vibrant community aspect of music making for me right now. And I know that extends into other areas such as, in the rock scene as well, pedals and special instrument design. It's like the craft beer revolution, and we can, now that the means of production are more granular and they can be shaped and sculpted much more by individuals and small teams and around the world, and you don't need massive resources and a huge company, you can just DIY stuff. And in electronic music, there's big movement in software, of course, but also in new types of electronic instruments, which means that they need to talk a lot with the people who are going to shape the way that the instrument designers think about how they're going to approach something, So they're not creating things that haven't been invented before. It's not, but neither is it reinventing the wheel. So there's some really interesting nuance going on in that scene. And I think there's also some great music emerging from that dynamic. But it's really, sometimes it's not even recorded, so it's going to be quite difficult to document all of it. But that's exactly the way it should be. That's the way music needs to be.
You founded your new label Endless Process in spring 2019. What are your goals with this label?
Yeah, well, I did have some more conventional labels, indie labels that I started in the 90s. Some people might remember vinyl label like Mosquito Records and Rise Robots Rise Records, and there might have been another label as well. So I've done that, and then I lost so much money and so much stock, and everything collapsed. So I vowed never to start a label again, or what was the point? And every time I thought about it, I didn't really see any viability for me. I mean, I don't really have the funds to back it or the time. But last few years, I started to see that there was a problem for artists, especially long-term artists, like people like myself and one of the artists on Endless Process, Bjørn Sveen, from Denmark. We've been doing it a really long time and we're very productive right now, but it's really difficult to get to the end of the production. It's like more difficult than it was back in the day. So how to get things finished, mastered, distributed and marketed, with no money. We don't earn, we earn hardly any money now, and it's just, how the hell are we supposed to do it? So I felt this is a good reason to start a label, just to just do it on in a real human to human kind of way, like I just say to Bjørn, as if we were doing something together, like, we just say, look, I'll cover this cost, and then, if we make some money, then we'll split that cost in half, and when we shake on it. And I had it already set up to do the digital distribution and stuff like that, which is really annoying and complicated to set up, and I set it up at some point, and I just know how to get that last part of the process, together, so I can help some artists just to finish and get the stuff out. I think getting stuff out is still really important, so that it can connect with other minds. And so this label is basically running in like bootstrapping, like what they do in startups. It's like that's what I'm bringing to this label. But I curated a little bit, but not in the sense of rejecting tracks. I don't say this is good or bad or whatever. It's just, of course, the artists are the only ones that can really say if they're happy with their work. So I just tried to make it really straightforward to get it out into every streaming platform and every shop for my artists, and keep the quality level really, really high. So that's the process of Endless Process. The accounting part, is quite easy because there's really very little coming in, so it doesn't get really complicated. And I saw that in a positive way, because I thought, right, well, if we know what the costs are and they're always going to be going out instead of coming in, then, it's going to be less arguments and discussion. No one's going to get rich. So that's when the trouble starts, is when it's always when there's, money around. So, yeah, it's kind of simple in that way. Help friends out. Help artists out who are willing to work in this way, and everyone's got their feet on the ground. We're all grounded about it and realistic, and we're all in it together. So that's the philosophy behind it, really.
And last question, how do you as a musician experience and evaluate the transition in music consumption to universal availability and the resulting randomness?
Who sent these questions in? So the resulting randomness, well, luckily I'm quite good at shepherding randomness. That's a phrase I heard a while ago. The shepherd, he's the guy looking after the sheep. And in my music, a lot of my machines and algorithms, I make them in order to be chaotic and random, and I try to shepherd all of that into interesting signals that will make good music. So I'm actually quite comfortable in that sort of flux and complexity. I like to think in that level, so I'm really happy that it's like that. What I didn't like about the old music industry, music business, is that they used to think that it was like a checklist that you do. Like, you start a band, check, you go to a studio, check, you record a record, you make a video, you put it out, then it's a tour, and then you get to tour the States first and not get paid anything, then you tour the States again and not get paid anything, and then it was like this was the formula for success, and nothing in this world is simple and straightforward. So I'm really happy that people are beginning to think about the concepts of luck and chance and randomness, and how to exist and find expression in all of that. and find your own voice. You know, it's really, again, very creative time. I mean, these days it's pretty exciting being a creative. You have to figure out some basics like how to pay the rent and, you know, how to eat and stuff like that. But luckily a gig comes up every now and then, and for me it's always, I don't play very often, but a gig like this one, Dave, is really special because I feel really welcome and you know, people really appreciate that all the effort I do to just turn up here and play. So they're not going to talk through my set or something like that, you know. I hope. If they are, then I'll put some echo on their voice and turn it into something weird. But, you know, it's really a nice way to be. There's other ways of supporting your music career. You've got to think outside the box. That's what I say to young people. You know, you've got to start thinking about applying for funding, arts funding. There's lots of funds for development, and you know, forget the industry models, forget being famous, forget making a video unless you've come up with a really cool, cheap way to make a video that's gonna, you know, help your music be heard. That's what it comes down to. So it's a pretty good time. You just have to roll with these with the flux, you know.
Okay, so that was it. Thank you for your questions.
There's not a longer question on the end there. Wasn't there a 5-stage question at the end? Something about...
No, that was it.
Okay, great. Well, I really enjoyed this chat. Looks like we've arrived at our destination, wherever that is. The Jufka Kebab House in Dresden. Next door is the Mezcalero. Nice. Is that where we're going?
Yeah, we will. First, we will end this interview, and
yes,
again, thank you for the questions. Have a great night here in Dresden, and thanks for being with us at the Day Festival.
Great, thanks for the ride.